I think it was 3 fighter planes came at us from the front, and I first spotted them coming in quite low, not quite low, but just under under our plane enough so that they could strike a plane in a critical spot and put it out of commission if possible. I tried to swing the nose gun to get a shot at these German fighters as the Focke-Wulf planes as they came in, but they were below the line of sight. I couldn't get a bearing on them, so they fired at us and swept right under our bomber and went on, circled out of range. Almost immediately, the plane was afire, and the flames were shooting back through the fuselage. We had two bombs on board at that point, two 2,000-pound bombs. And I tried to salvo the bombs to release them from the plane, and the electrical system had been shot up apparently so that they would not release. I tried to salvo the bombs manually on a handle that was used for emergencies like that, and that was jammed as well. So we still had the bombs on board, and the hydraulic lines had been shot up, and the hydraulic fluid and fuel lines were feeding the flames in the bomb bay. So I came back out of the nose of the plane. I had my parachute harness on, but there was not room to wear the parachute pack up in the nose. So I had to retrieve my parachute pack from behind the co-pilot's seat and clip the hooks on the rings on the back of the parachute pack into the harness hooks on my chest. And the plane was starting to roll, and the flames were getting hotter the pilot had we pieced some of this together after we all got on the ground, but the pilot left his position to get out of the plane, and he said later that when he hit the switches, he was sure he only hit one of the two switches on the console. So one engine was still running. The pilot went out his escape hatch between the pilot and co-pilot's seat. He had dropped the nose wheel, dropped the landing gear at that time to open this hatch that was where he was assigned to use. So he went out, and the gunners had gone out at about the same time. And while I was trying to get out at any place that I could, the plane blew up. I was trying to reach the plexiglass hatch over the co-pilot's seat to get out that way. I was reaching up toward the hatch, trying to unlatch the handle, and when the explosion came, that blew me through that plexiglass hatch, and I had one elbow out through the shattered hatch, and I was trying to get the other elbow out And at that point, I believe, and I do believe now, that the plane flipped again and actually threw me out through the shattered remains of that plexiglass hatch. Whatever happened, I found myself out in open air. All of a sudden, it was very quiet. It was cool, away from the flames, and I reached down for to open my parachute, and it had been pulled out of its place on my chest where it was clipped to the harness. The parachute was not going to do me any good unless it was opened, and so I hauled it in by the harness tapes that are attached from the parachute harness to the parachute itself. And I hauled it in hand over hand. It was about 10 feet away from me, and I was out just floating in the air, not really oriented yet. But I got hold of the parachute pack, grabbed the handle, the T-bar handle on the outside of the pack, gave it a yank and threw it, and the parachute popped open and filled up above me. I glanced up and saw it had filled, and I said a very brief prayer. Thank God for that. And I swung probably probably twice, maybe two swings like a pendulum, and hit the ground. I was still swinging when I hit the ground, so I hit pretty hard, and I rolled over on the ground in a pasture, and I struggled to my feet and got and felt around to see if if everything was there, and I seemed to be intact yet, and I had injured my hip, bruised it quite a bit when I hit, but I got the parachute off, and I tried to hide the parachute as we've been told to do, so that the enemy couldn't locate us so easily. Well, in this case, that was unnecessary. The enemy already knew exactly where I was and how they were going to get me. But I got the parachute off, and I tried to hide the parachute as we've been told to do, so that the enemy couldn't locate us so easily. Well, in this case, that was unnecessary. The enemy already knew exactly where I was and how they were going to get me. So I walked a short distance to a road, probably not over maybe 100 yards, 150 yards to a country road, and I didn't have much idea of where I was going, but I went to the nearest farmhouse and stood at the back. I stood at the front porch. It was just 2 steps there up to the door, and I stood at the door, and I didn't knock. I just stood there. Thought I'd wait and see what happened. And in very, very short time, the door opened, and the farmer there waved me around toward the back of the house. And so I went there, and he said in Flemish, well, he was using gestures more than anything, because I didn't understand either French or Flemish, and I don't know which one he was speaking. But he was friendly. This was the main thing. And so there was a half a wooden barrel of water sitting by the pump at the back. This was the cow barn part of the house. And the barrel of water was very inviting, and he pointed to my hands and then pointed to the water, and so I stuck both hands down in the water, and some of the skin was slipping off my hands, and they were very badly burned. My face was burned. I splashed water on my face, and did that several times, and it had a very cooling effect on me. And so so I guess from what I know now, that was probably as good treatment as I could have given it. He went in. Then the farmer went in the house and then beckoned for me to come on in the back door. So we went in the house, and he had me sit at a dining table in the middle of the living room. His wife came, and they both looked at me and like they were wondering what they're going to do with me. And then I think they decided, as I had already decided pretty much, that there wasn't much they could do with me. And so within 5 minutes, there was a knock at the door, and a German soldier was there and he was holding a Luger pistol pointed in my direction. And he beckoned with the pistol to come this way with him. So I went. I was limping, and my hair was burned off. My hands were, skin was slipping on part of my hands. I was in quite a little pain, but that was the least of my worries at that point. So I went to the door with him, and the farmer opened the door. We walked out. There was a Volkswagen car there, and the co-pilot was already in the back seat. So the German soldier opened the door and motioned me to get in, and I got in, and the co-pilot was there. The German soldiers drove down the road a ways on a blacktop road, about a mile or two, and stopped at what appeared to be a first aid station. And he got out. They got out and went in and had us come on in this first aid station. The pilot was laying on a stretcher on the floor, and he was conscious. And we kneeled down and spoke to him on the floor, and he indicated that they had given him some morphine, and his right leg was missing below the knee. Yeah, below the knee. Yeah, the foot and part of the upper leg. So they already had it bandaged up, and then the rest of us, the three of us, were held there at this first aid station for a short time, and then they took us on into Brussels to a intermediate, I suppose you'd call it a prison.